Well, hello guys. Just gonna wait a few minutes. Today we're gonna be going over our square. What are we calling these?
Square in a square block.
Okay, square and a square block. Okay, I'm getting
It's
confused because
like
my next pattern has triangle and a square blocks, and I was about to call them triangle and square. I was like, these are not triangles. Square and a square blocks, also known as the economy blocks. So we will be going over some of these today. Quick tutorial, and then we can just hang out and chat. And yeah, nothing else on the agenda really. Right, Olivia? There's nothing really else. The Secret Santa's already draw's been picked and everything. So
Mhm.
um, really just trying to, yeah,
Yep.
and that's it.
The main point of this is to show off the demonstration of these being sewn and give people the opportunity to ask questions or like try to troubleshoot if they're running into any problems. And then that's
Yeah,
it.
I'm gonna preheat my iron right now while we're waiting. And yeah, these are pretty straightforward. So I'm not anticipating too many questions or anything, but you got them. So you can start putting your questions in the chat right now or speaking up so that I can address them before I start sewing and everything. That would be helpful. I'm using darker thread so that we can um see my stitch marks. My machine acts appropriately tonight. That'd be great. I'm really upset at the last several days. Angry at me. All right, so this is being recorded, so you can revisit it later. We're just gonna upload the square in a square portion, and then we'll stop the recording and we can just chat and hang out and go on from there. Okay, let me look at the chat real quick. Yeah, so I will be going over the full process. Yeah, if they're running, okay, so the thing with economy blocks is you cannot really give extra wiggle room, because when you give extra wiggle room, then the center square becomes larger and then you lose the points. So that's why we're going to the 1/8 inch for economy blocks. It's a pain, and trust me, I hate writing patterns to the 1/8 inch, but with these specific blocks, you have to, unfortunately. I've tried test blocks of, not going to the 1/8 inch or different measurements, and economy blocks are just one of those things that it's just, you kind of have to. So if you're having issues, I suggest going to a scant seam allowance and then trying from there. Basically, you should only be trimming off the little, what are these things called? The
Dog ears.
tails? Dog ears, thank you, dog. Anything. So when I trimmed, this is pretty much all I got from trimming. So it's just a little bit, it just cleans it up a little bit, but it's not like huge amounts of fabric. Um, so yeah, I'll
I
get
think
started.
one of the big things that you can touch on is how the bias is in play with them being cut diagonally, like your squares being cut diagonally, and then you use those triangles on either side. Like you don't want to stretch as you sew. You don't
Yeah,
want to pull like it's like that because then it'll start to warp. And then that's when you end up with a lot of extra trimmings when you normally wouldn't have them because like you're trying to shape it into a square when you have stretched it into some oblong
weird.
shape.
So one thing I mean, right now, I kind of just eye up the center, honestly. Um, but if you feel like you're getting like some wonky stuff where like one corner is like way higher than the other, and then it's just not creating a square, then you can go ahead and iron, or you don't even have to iron. You can press all these in half, just with your finger like this, and create a little crease, and you can do that, you know, um, 4 ways for this one, for the center square. So I'll just go ahead and do that, because I did not do that for the rest of mine, but and I don't even pin, but I think for the sake of this, it's probably better for me to do that. So just find the centers here, do one pin in the mark in the center, and then just go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and sew that. I'll do that real quick.
Can you
Wish
show how much overhang is on the backside? Like if you flip it and show how much of
Yeah.
the triangle is overhanging.
So it's over a 1/4 inch. I would say it's 3/8 of an inch. Wait, no. Yes, 3/8 of an inch. It should be about 3/8 of an inch. Yeah. So it's a little over a 1/4 inch on both sides. So I'm gonna go in. Sorry, you guys can't see me. I don't want to mess with the camera because I'll never get it back to this situation here. So just sewing that. And even though I marked the center, to me, I feel like it's not perfectly in the center, even though I did mark it, but it's fine. It's okay. It really does kind of work itself out. I'm gonna mark again, do the other side real quick and show you guys that. So I'm using my the foot I typically use for like scan seam allowance. So um oh, that's worse. Oh God.
If you put it up really high, it corrects the lighting and then you can kind of
Okay.
see that dark line.
Yeah, so you can see it's not perfectly a 1/4 inch like here. There's still some more overhang than what it is. It doesn't like meet it perfectly in the center, so um yeah, I'm gonna iron real quick and then I will show you the other ones. My iron is terrible. I am not liking I'm
Is
having a
this
lot of
the
the
Rowenta?
Rowenta I got from Target. It's really bad. It's like for some reason burning on the bottom.
Oh,
It's
it didn't
creating
have
like
like a film or a protector on it, right?
if it did, it's gone and burnt now. This is me after I like scraped it off. I don't know what's happening. It's
Oh.
really hazardous to be honest. And also my seams are not flat at all. Like this is like barely like see how bad that is? Whatever. Okay, so doing the same thing. So I kind of did
Wait, you pressed to the side essentially, but you pressed out the seams,
yeah,
not
I'm not
in.
pressing. Yeah, I'm pressing towards the triangles, pressing outwards. Okay, and then I'm doing the remaining two. And you can even prep these. Like I haven't been, but you can like if you want to prep these ahead of time. And then now we're using that other extra color, depending on what colorway you're going with. I can't even see because I just ironed it. Yeah, here's my center mark. Okay, so I would definitely try a few seam allowances. before you do them all. I personally have been finding a scan scheme around has been pretty good for me. And when you're about to sew, like the corner here should, sorry, is this focused?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay. So your seam should pretty much start exactly where that like little V is right here. So it should start for the second round. Let me show you on the lighter fabric here. And if you're the type of person that uses, I don't know why I worded it like that. If you use a seam guide, like a 1/4 inch seam guide, you might struggle because there's like some, I cannot get this lighting perfect. I think it's better without that. Yeah, if you use a 1/4 inch seam guide, these might give you some issues. So just keep that in mind because there's like a tail over here. But yeah, this should pretty much meet directly in that 1/4 inch line. So right where that V is, that's where you'll start your stitch. I'm gonna iron it real quick. Then I'll get to trimming. And when you're pressing, be careful, like Olivia was saying. Don't stretch. These are all in the bias. Anything with triangles, you really wanna avoid any excess stretching. Okay. That looks good. Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a 4.5 inch roller. But if you do not, you can do the same thing. So really you just want to, I wish I could get closer. I want to see if there's like a,
Do you have a permanent marker that you can write on that ruler with?
yeah, I'm about to do that too.
Okay.
Is that closer? A little
It's
bit.
a box's height closer.
Well, does it look better, I should say. Maybe
Yeah,
a little
I mean
bit. Okay.
it's a little better.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is get a permanent marker, or it's not a permanent marker, but close enough. And mark where like the dots are going to be where you should be lining up things. So for this, it's 2.25. So I want to make sure that it's on this 2.25 mark all the way around. And there's just a little dot, so I know that I need to be, that point needs to line up in each of these 4 dots.
So it's the 2.25 halfway point, and it's on the 1/4 inch
Yes, so the 1/4 inch, so
from the edge of the ruler.
yep. So it's just 4 dots, 2.25 or 1/4 inch in. And then, you could do this obviously with a different roller. This might be easier for me to see, or easier for you guys to see. So like a 1/4 inch in. It's like more confusing for me because this ruler is not built for this. And then 1/4 inch in, 1/4 inch in. So I just have 4 dots that now every time I place this roller overhead, all I pay attention to are those 4 dots, and I make sure that they match up with those corners. And there's barely any trimming room. I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of what happens with the economy box. There's some, but it's not really just getting rid of those dog ears and straightening up a hair. And rotating that's pretty helpful too. So, oop, I need a new, I just changed this blade.
That's probably because you're on a box that's
Yeah.
like dipping down.
Yeah. is. So, I mean, it's a lot larger trimming room, but this is a perfect square now. So,
And
if
yeah, the center on hers, the light blue green square, um, there's going to be at all of those corners, there's going to be fabric on the outside. You are not going to trim all the way up to those points. You
yeah,
need to have extra on the outside of those points that you made with the little triangles that you sewed around it. And that's going to be your seam allowance when you finally put that block up against another one and sew it together. And it should be a 1/4 inch.
yeah,
And that
you
will
should have at
mean that
least a
when
1/4
it's,
inch all the way around.
yeah, when it's sewn together, it'll come directly to the points of that center square. That on hers, the light blue green
Yeah.
center square.
So if I were to sew these together, these diamonds would match perfectly. Yeah. Any questions? So, I mean, seam allowance is the main thing. I would try to do a scan seam allowance and see if you have more room because it should fit perfectly in here.
If your seam allowance is less
Two,
than a 1/4 inch, your center square is going to be too big. So when you go to trim it, there will be less than a 1/4 inch
yes.
on the outside, and you will lose your points. If your 1/4 inch seam allowance is more than, no, hang on, do I have it backwards?
I know you're, if your seam allowance is
Okay,
too
if
big,
yeah, if your seam allowance is too small, your
you're gonna lose the 1/4 inch inside.
yes.
But if your seam allowance is too big, it's not gonna be 4.5 inches square.
Mhm.
So
So you're
perfect
saying
that
like
seam allowance.
you need to play around with your seam allowance, and what you're trying to get at is um, there being those points of your center square lining up exactly with the dots that she marked on her
Yeah.
ruler.
Mhm.
Um, because if it's off at all, those points will not match up. And it'll either be inside or outside, depending on if your seam allowance is too big or too small. But
Yeah.
you will know that it's perfect when those points hit the right places on your ruler.
So I suggest not chain piecing in the beginning. I suggest doing a few test runs and just making sure that these points, 2 1/4 all the way around, are perfectly in that center square. And then once you feel like you're in a good spot, then you can start chain piecing. So yeah. Any questions? I'm not seeing anything in the chat, so if you have any questions.
Um, there aren't any extra questions, but do you have one that you haven't trimmed yet that you can trim with not a exact 4.5 inch ruler? Because I don't think
Yeah.
many people have that perfect ruler.
I have to make like I have to show 2 things in there. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I really just be eyeballing this, to be honest, but sometimes my eyeball's better than the other. I did not have all that really good, but that'll give an example of it not being a perfect square. Okay. Yeah, it's like a little bit overhung here. It's fine, we're gonna work with it. I'm gonna do a big old roller. I got 8 from, I think, our last solo on here. All right, so because I did not sew it perfectly, I will run into that issue where the 1/4 inch is a little tight up here, but it's fine. I'll just make sure that I, so getting confused too. Okay, yeah. Okay. Actually might be a good example of a bad. Yeah, it is. I gotta figure this out. 2 1/4, 2 1/4, and then we want to go. I think that's where. Okay, so I marked all my 2 1/4 spots, and then I'm just lining them up, finagling them. It's like a little. Yeah, close. And if you're not using a perfect 4.5, I would suggest taping. Like, I'll probably do that real quick. Taping a 4.5 inches here so that you know where you're looking at. It's just kind of hard to look at. Okay, so now I know that I can pretty much just line this up perfectly down here. It's not as perfect as my other one, but it'll be okay. So yeah. Any questions about that using a non-square roller? Or the perfect roller, I should say. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the end of my TED Talk. No, but seriously,
You're
I
going
think.
to make, let's see, you're making the throw. You're making, please scroll down, 64 square and square blocks in each set. And if you're making the baby, you are making 16 square and square blocks for each set. Trying to think of anything else that might be important.
Oh my God.
The way that I pieced mine after making my first like test block essentially was to go down and sew all triangles like when you have your center square and you're adding on your first little triangle to it. I did that for all of my center squares and then turned it around and did the opposite
Yeah.
triangle for all of my squares. And then I trimmed off my dog ears because I don't like the extra bulk in my
Okay.
seam. Um, Not required because you're going to end up trimming anyways, but for me, it just made my brain see it easier. And then turned it and added my third triangle and did that all down the side and just kind of chain pieced it to make it go a little bit faster.
Yeah, that and thank goodness for the baby. That is why we decided to have the baby option this round.
Mhm.
Because we were like, oh, this is a lot of square in a square block. Everything else is fine, but we were like, this is a lot of square in a square, to do. So I think the baby option is great, especially this time of year. So, people are busy. So,
Yeah, I feel like it's good to have the baby not only because it saves time, it requires less fabric, so you're not using a lot of fabric for a mystery quilt pattern.
yeah,
And then since it does have so many options, when you finish it and you want to go back and make a different one, you will have full view of the pattern and see the options of
yeah,
both sizes and all colorways.
yeah. And the baby went really quickly to do these. Like I did them all in a day pretty much. So besides my iron and sewing machine issues were the only hold up. So um but